Have you ever thought about leaving everything behind to follow your dreams? It's been exactly 1 year since I upended my life. I put my career as a mechanical engineer on hold, left my job as a head of hardware for a startup in San Francisco. I sold nearly all of my things, and I built out my Land Cruiser troop carrier to hit the road full time and overland the Pan American Highway. And in the past year, I think it's safe to say that nothing's gone according to plan. I've camped 156 nights, driven nearly 8,000 miles. I've broken down twice. I've replaced the engine once. I've had all my stuff stolen once. And to be honest, I've thought about giving up more times than I can count. But I'm still here, and I'm still going. Because even though nothing's gone according to plan, everything's worked out. I've made some incredible memories and I've met some amazing people. It's easy to look back on this past year and wonder what might be different if I had made different choices. If I had kept the 4Runner, I'd probably be in Central America by now. If I would have spent a little bit more time working on the Troopy, maybe I wouldn't have broken down. But even when I ask myself those questions, I don't regret any of the choices that I've made. I traded the 4Runner for the Troopy for very deliberate reasons. And even though the start hasn't been the easiest, I know that I'm putting in the time and the work to make sure that things are going to be better moving forward. I wouldn't trade all of that extra time up in Alaska, watching winter roll in, seeing the northern lights nearly every night, and making some incredible connections for anything. For the past few weeks, the Troopy's been back in the shop because as I was researching and preparing to solve my transmission issues, I realized that it's probably an issue best handled by the experts. And I also realized that I had absolutely no desire to drop a transmission on my back in the driveway when it's 105 degrees outside. So I made an appointment at Valley Hybrids, and I'm so glad that I did, because George and his team are absolutely top-notch over there. If you're into Land Cruisers and you spent any time at all on the forums over at I Hate Mud, then George's name is probably familiar to you because he regularly pops into threads to help people, and other folks call him out by name when folks need help. So I know that I'm in good hands. When I explained to George my goal of taking this 32-year-old Land Cruiser down the Pan American Highway all the way to Patagonia, they really took it to heart and went through things with a fine-tooth comb to do their part to help me make it there successfully. So they're actually helping me out with a lot more than just the transmission. I think the short list is, transmission transfer case rebuild. We're installing the Long Range America auxiliary fuel tank. They're helping me with my steering gear and power steering pump, a whole bunch of front end rebuild stuff, all the bushings, tie rod ends, everything like that. My whole drive line is getting refurbished, new U-joints, everything like that. A little bit of stuff on the rear end, and I couldn't be happier. My wallet is hurting though. My savings account has taken a big hit to get all of this done. All of this work definitely isn't cheap, but I think spending the money and having it done right is going to pay off in the long run. I'm sure there are things that I could have pushed down the line or waited until they really became an issue to resolve, but that would have just been delaying the inevitable, and I would have had to spend the money at some point. So I might as well do it now while I've got the truck with an expert. One example of that is the clutch. While we dropped the transmission in the transfer case, we made the call to go ahead and replace my clutch assembly, throw out bearing, all of that, just because it was easy to get to. I probably still had 10 or 15,000 good miles left on it, but it's a lot longer than that to get to Patagonia. So we went ahead and spent the money to do it, and that just gives me a little bit of peace of mind. Once I get the truck back and the final invoice, I'll go through it all with you in detail, and we'll talk about what I got done and how much it all costs. One project that we undertook that turned out to be a lot bigger than I thought it would be is the auxiliary fuel tank install from Long Range America. In my mind, it would be a pretty easy install between the frame rails underneath the truck, a little bit of work to get the fuel pickup and things like that, but it's actually a much bigger install. The brackets that support the tank have to go up through the floor pan and be secured with backer plates inside the truck, and that meant my whole interior had to come out. So the inside of the Troopy is sort of back at square one right now. I went down there and I ripped everything out so we could get that tank installed, and that means it's time to think through some upgrades. So in the coming weeks, I'm excited to share with you some of those changes, some of the new gear we're going to be carrying, and bring you along for every step of this interior build 2.0. You know, one other thing that's been on my mind lately has been YouTube and making these videos. What started as an outlet for some of my creative energy has turned into something that I'm incredibly passionate about. But making these videos is hard. It's hard work. It's so rewarding and so much fun, but it can also be incredibly frustrating and mentally exhausting. In the past year, I've gotten to spend a ton of time in the driver's seat of the Troopy, and that's let me listen to a lot of podcasts while I drive. And one of my favorites is This American Life from NPR. I think I like it so much because they manage to tell fascinating stories on topics that otherwise seem quite average. And in a lot of ways, that's my goal for this YouTube channel. I'm just an average guy trying to tell good stories. But it turns out that telling good stories is hard. And aside from all the ups and downs with the Troopy in the last year, I've also been feeling like I'm not doing a very good job making these YouTube videos and telling stories that matter. I was recently reminded of a quote from Ira Glass, the host of This American Life. And he's talking about what he calls the creative gap. And I'm paraphrasing here, but basically what he says is that people who get into creative pursuits do so because they have good taste. But for a long time, there's a gap between your skills and what your taste says is good. And so it's easy to look at what you're making or producing and feel disappointed or like it's just not good. But if you keep showing up, and you keep hitting publish, and you keep trying, eventually you'll close that gap. And so I want to say thank you. Thank you for giving me a little bit of your time each week. Thank you for making this little corner of the internet a place where I can show up and work to improve my craft and be consistently met with kind words in the comments and valuable constructive criticism. But mostly, thank you for believing in me, for understanding the vision as I work through the ups and downs and work to bridge that gap, and for sticking with me through it all. This is my promise to you. I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep working to hone my skills and improve my craft and tell better stories. And I'm going to bring you along for every step of the way. There's so much good coming in the future. In a week or so, we're going to have the Troopy back, and it's going to be better than ever. We've still got some work to do, but here in the next couple of months, we're going to point ourselves south, and we're not going to look back until we hit Patagonia. I'm so happy that you're here, and it means the world to me that you give me a little bit of your time each week. I really appreciate you. If you want to help support what I'm doing, it's a huge help to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Maybe share it with someone who you think may find what I'm doing interesting. And if you want to help financially keep me and the Troopy on the road, there are some links down in the description to do just that. You can consider joining the channel as a member. You can use those Amazon links to do your shopping, whatever it is, and I'll get a small kickback at no extra charge to you. And it really goes a long way. Every gallon of gas I can put in the tank is a gallon closer to Patagonia. Thank you so much. I'll catch you on the next one, and until then, get out and explore somewhere.